All right, so let's now speak to Sherwin, who's joining us for more. Sherwin, good evening to you, and thank you so much for your time. A defiant posture from Iran's supreme leader. What more do we know about the U.S.'s decision, especially when it comes to its decision-making process as to whether they'll join Israel's fight against Iran?
So we've just heard from U.S. President Donald Trump. He was speaking, Bongiwe, on the lawns of the White House, an impromptu Q&A with some journalists there. He said, quote, "I don't care what..." My apologies. "I may do it. I may not do it. Nobody knows what I'm going to do." So, of course, this is his latest remarks in terms of the U.S. posture. Of course, leaving the G7 summit in Canada early to return to Washington as he weighs greater U.S. military involvement in Israel's fight with Iran. He was also asked, when does your patience run out? And Trump responded, "It's already run out. That's why we're doing what we're doing." And what are they doing? They have put military assets. The Pentagon has sent military hardware into the region. We understand, CNN reporting a short time ago that the USS Ford Carrier Strike Group, Bongiwe, which is essentially made up of an aircraft carrier, guided missile cruisers, destroyers and frigates, and a carrier air wing of some 65 to 70 aircraft, in addition to other aircraft carriers with dozens of fighter jets, refueling aircraft. So the posture here, certainly from the Pentagon, is that they're sending a lot of hardware and military assets into the region. Is this for a defensive posture? Is this for a more offensive posture? Or is this for diplomatic coercion? We don't know the answers to that. And certainly the president playing rather coy here in terms of his thinking as to whether they will go in here or not. But the supreme leader of Iran making some pointed comments. I think we have that clip. Shall we play it?
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. The IC continues to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program.
All right, so that was Tulsi Gabbard, the National Director of Intelligence in the United States. She was addressing Congress, Bongiwe, in March of this year. And essentially, the U.S. intelligence community's assessment is that Iran was not building a nuclear bomb, and that Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader, had not given an instruction for that program to be restarted, a program that was suspended by Iran in 2003. The president then, on his way back from the G7 to Washington, was asked specifically about his own intelligence community's assessment that Iran was not building a nuclear weapon. And he responded, quote, "I don't care what she said. I think they are very close to having one." So aligning himself more with the Israeli position as to Iran's movement towards a nuclear weapon here, but it's not the U.S. intelligence community's assessment that that was in fact the case.
And Sherwin, I just want to see if we do have that clip by Ali Khamenei. Do we have that clip? If we're able to play it, please, let's bring it up. All right, Sherwin, we'll continue then with this conversation. And of course, you look at a United States, Sherwin, right, that a lot of people are on tenterhooks wondering that if the U.S. does get more deeply involved in this particular fight, there is a bit more of an offensive posture that we could see. But also, what specifically does it bring to this fight, and what would be the implications?
So the entire premise of this escalation in the Middle East is based on Israel's position that Iran was very close to building a nuclear weapon, even though the intelligence community in the United States has not made that assessment. And so this is why this entire conflagration, essentially, in the Middle East is happening. What specifically the Israelis do not have that the United States possesses is gaining access through bombs to destroy buried deep below the Earth's surface some of the enrichment facilities, the Fordo nuclear facility, the enrichment facility that Iran has, that is some 80 to 90 meters below the Earth's surface, built into a mountain. And the only way Israel's military hardware can penetrate that is if they get support through what is known as a bunker buster bomb that can only be delivered by a certain kind of aircraft that only the United States possesses. So the US, were they to get involved here, would be specifically to destroy this nuclear facility, which the Israelis, through their military competency at this moment, cannot penetrate. The United States has that capacity. The question is right now whether President Trump will pull the trigger. Trita Parsi is an Iran expert at the think tank, the Quincy Institute here in Washington, D.C. He also weighed in on what might happen in the next hours. Watch.
Right now, we are most likely the hours before a major escalation, rather de-escalation. What Trump has been signaling, tweeting today does not seem to suggest that he has any plans to actually give diplomacy a real chance. He's calling for surrender. I think he is likely miscalculating, thinking that the Iranians believe that surrender actually is an option, that Trump would honor the terms of a surrender. And that's assuming that they even think that surrender is in the cards, in the sense that their assessment of their strength and weakness is likely very different from the perception that exists in Israel and in the United States. If they don't trust that surrender actually is an option, because they believe that once they were to agree to it, the Israelis would not be content with just destroying the nuclear program. They would go after the missile program, and then it would snowball to a whole set of other things. And as a result, I don't think that they think is an actual option. So if Trump goes and insists on surrender, if talks even take place, I think it will ensure war.
And Bongiwe, we're just getting reports now that Iran's foreign minister has denied reports that a delegation has left Iran for Oman for diplomatic talks. You'll know that Iran cancelled those engagements, the sixth round of diplomatic talks with the United States as it pertained to its ongoing nuclear program. And so, you know, the speculation is that there might be some behind-the-scenes maneuvering here, but on the record, the foreign minister saying no delegation is left for talks, one imagines, with the United States in Oman.
And speaking about the United States, Sherwin, we understand that there's division within the Trump MAGA base about U.S. involvement in yet another Middle East conflict. So how does this then affect the president's decision-making?
Well, it's, you know, there's the government position of Donald Trump, and there's also the political position of Donald Trump. How could this hurt him? Remember, this is a president that has asserted an America First policy. And this is someone that came in more as a peacemaker and wanting to reduce America's military adventurism around the world. I mean, that is essentially what he was elected for. And so what does America First look like with the United States perhaps considering engaging in another Middle East conflict, right? Iraq is a very fresh memory in the minds of many Americans. And so you're hearing some opposition from the likes of journalists like Tucker Carlson. You're hearing from Marjorie Taylor Greene, Steve Bannon. And so there's a lot of pressure, a lot of division, certainly within the MAGA stratosphere here in terms of the United States considering getting involved in another overseas conflict. Look how the United States has sought to withdraw from Ukraine as a recent example. And so there is both the president's decision-making here as the commander-in-chief, but there will also be in the back of Donald Trump's mind the political implications were to move ahead here.
Sherwin, thank you so much for that update. Sherwin Bryce-Pease, SABC News correspondent with the very latest.